Well, congratulations to both Olivia and Jared. This is a really exciting point in your career, I understand. And so uh job well done for getting this far. Um, so I have been in the legal profession my entire career. I am a graduate of Meredith College and the Meredith College Paralegal Program. And I went to work as a paralegal in an insurance defense law firm doing litigation work. And so, had a very traditional paralegal career for the first 10 years of my career. Then I joined Lawyers Mutual, which is the largest malpractice provider in North Carolina for legal malpractice insurance. And I went to work there as a risk management paralegal. So I spent my time helping lawyers and their staff understand the risk associated with practicing law and how to avoid those risks. I was there for 7 years and I went back to a law firm. I joined a large law firm that was primarily their largest office was in Charlotte, and they had an office in Raleigh. And I joined as a government relations paralegal, as a recruiting professional, recruiting attorneys, and as a business development and marketing professional. So I worked for this law firm that was 150 lawyers, 14 lawyers in the Raleigh office. And by the time I left 10 years later, they had grown to 300 lawyers, and then they merged with K&L Gates, which is, one of the largest global law firms in the world, and 60 lawyers in Raleigh and RTP. And my heart is really with the solo small firm practitioner. I loved my personal job and I found a lot of satisfaction in it in a larger firm. But I just really saw that solo and small firm practice is tough. And I really loved the mission of Lawyers Mutual. And not only, do they provide malpractice insurance, which is that's a transactional deal. You pay them money, they provide a policy. But the other things that they do is really what attracted me. I had been there for 7 years and loved it, and they invited me back. And so I've been there now for 13 years. I headed up the client services department, which was the education, the risk management education. And then we spun off a subsidiary consulting company about 5 years. Well, exactly 5 years ago. We're celebrating our 5th anniversary on October 1st. And now I work primarily with lawyers on the back end of their career, succession planning, winding down, transitioning ownership to next generation lawyers, making lawyers at both stages of career understand that there are buy and sell opportunities for newer lawyers to buy the law practice of a retiring lawyer. Often a great way for lawyers to step into something that is established without building everything from the ground up. And another passion I have is access to justice. And so I serve on a variety of committees in North Carolina to have conversations about legal technology, how that will impact access to justice, and just looking at alternatives to one-to-one service from lawyer to client, which I think is extraordinarily valuable. But it will never solve the acute access to justice problem we have, which studies show across the country that 85% of folks do not have the legal services that they need. And I would say one area where both of you are stepping into that is sort of this younger market of, college students, high school students, young people in general who don't always have a lot of money for legal services, but their problems are they could become a hindrance. and a stumbling block for their entire future, if they don't have the resources and the good legal advice to get through that. And so I have my career started out very traditional, and it has morphed along the way to a variety of things. So that's a long introduction, and it's not to tell you as much about me as to also share with you, like, what you think you're doing today and what you think you'll be doing in 5 years may be very different. Some of that may be impacted by regulatory reform. Some of that may be impacted by the economy, and the economics of law practice and how that's changing dramatically. Some of it may be impacted by your own career desires and growth opportunities. And so I say never shut the door on any opportunities.
Yeah, just if I could add real quick, yeah, Camille, you may not get a sense at what this is more to Jared and Olivia, but Camille is like incredibly well connected across the state and probably beyond because of who she is and the kind of work she does. So we are incredibly privileged that she's taken out an hour of her Friday morning to be here. I mean, she's moving at the highest levels and also the most humble of levels, just helping people across the state. And then also Lawyers Mutual, I just want to put in a plug. It is a great organization. I mean, they're my malpractice insurance carrier, but they have a lot of resources, free resources, and they're trying to help people. So do check out their website if you haven't got your malpractice insurance yet. They're a great resource, great material for helping you in your practice in a lot of different ways. So thanks.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I wanted to focus on today is a topic that I typically refer to as strategic networking, because I think that I think you can do all sorts of things to promote yourself: website, digital marketing, social media, running ads in traditional print, such as Lawyers Weekly. But in my experience, the best thing that you can do is to be strategic about building a network that both supports and encourages you, as well as leads to business opportunities for you. And so that's kind of my focus today. And then I welcome you to ask questions as we talk, because I do want this to be a conversation and not a presentation. And then feel free to just ask me any random questions about, what I see as important right now in the law marketplace. You probably know some of the statistics about networking, but most people that have at least 250 contacts. And so when you get to know Mark, you don't just add one person to your network, right? But you add all of Mark's contacts to your network. Because if you go to Mark and say, hey, Mark, I have a question about websites. I'm thinking about doing A, B, or C. Mark will say, those are great ideas. And, I've seen lawyers be successful with those. And if you want to do A, I know Brian Craig, who builds websites for lawyers. And if you want to do B, I know Pegeen Turner, who is, an excellent technology resource for you. And so by getting to know the people that you have the value of their network. And so asking for introductions from people is a perfectly legitimate way to use your network. And then also share your resources, right? Because it sounds like that maybe Olivia had raised an issue about getting sworn in, and Jared perhaps opened his network and helped facilitate an introduction that made that work. And so I think it's often a myth that lawyers who are younger in their career often think, I don't have anything of value to add. Like, networking to me feels uncomfortable because I'm asking for everything. I'm asking for people to help me. I'm asking for people to hire me. I'm asking, for advice and counsel, but it's not accurate. No matter where you are in your stage, particularly as second career lawyers, you bring a wealth of knowledge, network, resources to the plate, and the plate just gets bigger as you share more. Another statistic that LinkedIn and Facebook have actually provided over the years is that anyone you want to meet is at most, 3 to 4 connections away from you. So there used to be the game, 6 degrees of separation, or 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, or whatever that little thing was, right? How many people would it take you to connect before you could connect with someone specific? And that number keeps dropping because of Facebook, social, LinkedIn. So, when you have a dream job in mind, or a dream employer in mind, or a contact that you think could be really helpful to you in your career, using LinkedIn to see who is connected to them that you are then connected with is just a wonderful way to get a warm introduction. I also find that in the legal profession, many folks are welcome to a cold introduction, right? An email that says, and I always encourage you to find something that connects you, right? But an email that says, "Hey, I'm an alum of Central University and Central School of Law. I am entering my career as a solo practitioner or as a small firm owner. I see that you also went to Central School of Law. Would you have time for a quick call just to share some advice or tips?" And I often find that people are, they'll take that opportunity and say, "Oh my gosh, not only will I get on a quick call, but let's meet for lunch, or let's meet for coffee," or, something like that. So reaching out to your network with a warm connection introduction is perfectly acceptable. But then if on your LinkedIn connections, you see that 5 people who know this person, asking someone to make a direct introduction is impactful. And then a LinkedIn survey shows that 85% of jobs are filled by networking. And, this is coming from a leading employer matching network, right? They want you to post jobs and hire people on LinkedIn, but they acknowledge that it's the networking that goes on behind the scenes that makes that happen. And I think networking is a great way to meet mentors and sponsors, people who want to encourage you and be a part of what you're doing. The reason, and I'm just scrolling through a few notes that I have over here, but the reason that I really promote networking is because I think, to start with, that is your most valuable resource. It's meeting people, getting in front of people. And in this COVID world that we've been in, school online, it is so easy to sit behind our computers and sit behind our email addresses. You can tell I'm at home, from my decor, right? I'm in my home office, where I've been since the spring of 2020, which is a real change from me. But I make sure that I get out of my home office. I attend events, especially now that things are opened up more. I attend those bar events. I attend those networking events. The Legal Marketing Association is one I'm really involved with. And, we had a networking coffee this week. Um, uh, just getting out in front of people is important. And referral sources, I think, are going to be one of the best ways you're going to build your practice. And so, I always ask lawyers, established lawyers, folks who are in their career, can you name 20 referral sources that provide work for your business? And you would be shocked at how many people say, I couldn't name those people. That's not to say they're not there and they're not providing work to them, but they can't identify who those people are. And that is a missed opportunity. I know, I keep a list of people who refer work to me, and I reach out to them. I send them an email and thank them. I'll call them and take them out to lunch to thank them for referring that business to me. I talk to lawyers who say, I refer business to other lawyers in my community, and they never acknowledge my referral. I also talk to lawyers who say, I get business referred to me all the time, and I never reach out and thank those people. And that is just a missed opportunity. And it's an assumption that it will always be there. But I believe if someone steps in and does that a little bit better, that the referrals are then going to go to that person who is not only interested in just they can't serve the client and Mark can, but they're interested in someone who wants to build a reciprocal relationship. How can I help you? I appreciate you helping me. How can I help you? What do you need? And that's just an important part of every conversation. And because I am, by my past work, a business professional, a business development professional, and a marketing professional, all of my marketing friends do this religiously. We'll get off the phone with each other and they'll say, "Hey, Camille, how can I help you in your business?" And it is second nature. And sometimes, thank you so much. I think things are good right now. If I need something, I'll call. But other times I go into the call knowing that when I, you know, when we finish the call, I am going to ask them for advice or counsel or to help me, maybe with a person, an introduction, whatever the case may be. So that's what I mean by being, strategic and having a plan.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, I want to stop
sorry.
and engage some conversation at this point.
Yeah, no, that point is so on target, and it is. I was thinking back on my own career as a young man. I tended to be introverted. I mean, I like people, but I was an introvert, and I thought marketing and sales, and I just want to do my work and leave me alone. But what you're talking about with strategic networking, it can be learned, and you can get better at it as you go through your career. And I can remember 3 or 4 years ago, as I was thinking about launching the incubator, I started meeting people, and I would appreciate so much when they say, "Oh, I need to connect you with so and so," or "Do you know these three people?" And so I was seeing what they were doing, and then I realized, okay, I can be doing that as well. So I guess my point is, um, uh, don't exclude yourself from doing this just because of your personality. You can learn even as a 50-some-year-old about how to do these things, even, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60, you're never too old to learn new things. And when you associate yourself with people that are doing it, it's sort of contagious in a good way.
Hmm.
It's a good
Yeah.
contagion.
Hmm. So how about, thoughts from Olivia or Jared? Anything about this resonate with you? Anything about this makes you nervous?
it doesn't make me nervous, but it does resonate with me. So I been in the profession for almost 4 years now, but I haven't like had a practice. I've been doing like a niche area of law. But a lot of times folks will come to me because I am a lawyer. I'm a licensed lawyer in 2 different states. So they'll be like, Jared, I have a question. How can I do this? How can I do that? So I refer them to friends, who I know and trust. And you're right. A lot of folks don't even acknowledge the referral. They take it gladly, but it's something about that common touch that shoot me an email thanking me or a text, and a lot of times it could be a family or a friend who I'm referring. And me personally, if somebody sent me a referral, I would send them a thank you, and I think that goes a long ways with just being. I think that's just how we were raised. I would say it that way.
Yeah.
But I just think that professionally that speaks to our profession, that collegiality to do that, to send that thank you note, the invite for lunch. I definitely will take that into my practice going forward, Camille. So I appreciate you mentioning that as well.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good. I'm glad that resonated with you.
Yes, yes.
I agree with Jared with it resonating. I've been really surprised with how open the legal community is with, supporting and helping and providing resources. And in this sort of downtime that I am in, I've been taking advantage of a lot of the trainings through like the Office of the Juvenile Defender and stuff. And I'm surprised at how many people in the room I know already from engaging in different things. It's really been invaluable. So it's good to have that reiterated.
Good, good. Another thing that I think could be part of your strategic networking plan is everybody, I mean, I'm sure you know this, and Jared, you've already said it. When people know you're a lawyer, they're going to come and ask you questions, right? And so you are typically going to get asked about who does criminal work, who does family law, who does small business, like I need a contract, or, I need someone to look at my employment agreement, right? Like these are the common questions that you're going to get. So either you're going to decide to practice in those areas yourself, or you're going to want to refer those out. And so a great way to, meet people is to yourself dig around and find out like, who in this community of lawyers would be a good referral source for my client. So for instance, I get the question all the time about family law. And one of my close friends in family law was Lee Rosen, family lawyer, kind of made himself famous back in the 90s for going paperless, for, talking about productivity and efficiencies and marketing, things that nobody else was talking about. But Lee transitioned his practice over the years to high wealth clients, and primarily CEOs, typically men, in the Research Triangle Park, right? Like that was kind of his client. That's who he advertised to. That was his client. My friend from church, who was, a mom with 2 small children, like that was never going to work in her price frame, right? Lee created an online child support calculator, and Lee said, point everybody to my online child support calculator. So that would be my first step. Like, hey, if you're thinking about this, go check out this tool. But if you want to talk to a lawyer, I've got 3 sources for you. And typically they were 3 lawyers I knew personally who handled work at a price point that would work better for my friends that I was going to send to them. And so by going out and seeking these people out and introducing yourself and saying, is this, I've heard that this might be your sweet spot. Is it, does that work for you? Tell me more about you and what you do. Here's what I do. If you have referrals to send my way, I'm focusing on juvenile law or criminal, whatever it is, and go ahead and kind of set up, like, I want referral relationship with you. And if you never get those referrals, it's no problem, but I want to make sure I'm sending you the right kind of referral. Because if you only take high wealth clients and that's not who I'm looking for today, I don't want to waste your time with having to screen this person. What do you think about that? I mean, can you see how that, particularly as you're building a career, could that be helpful? And does it make you think about ways you might want to start coming up with that list yourself?
It does. It does. It does. And I never thought about creating like a niche area of folks to kind of target, like Mr. Rosen, Attorney Rosen. That's genius. Like if that's his people, that's his people. And you concentrate on your people, and those people will share within their circle of influence, which is typically like-minded, similarly situated folks.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But yeah, and I found like I'm active in both the Durham and the Wake County bars. I live in Wake County, Holly Springs, but I work in Durham. So I'm active in both technically. I find it really good that Durham does like monthly bar meetings, and I'm one of the only younger lawyers now, and I'm not younger, I'm 36, so I'm not too terribly young, but I'm younger in the profession.
Yeah, earlier in your career. Mm-hmm.
Earlier in my career, my legal career. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of like folks who are early in their legal career don't attend those type of events, and I think that that's a gold mine of judges and senior lawyers and retired attorneys who are just wanting to meet new people and seeing what's happening in the profession. And I'm meeting so many new colleagues daily and gleaning new advice and taking new lunch opportunities and new mentors and things of that nature, expanding my circle of influence. So I know, if this person does family law or this person does intellectual property, or, things of that nature. So I always encourage folks to check out those resources as well when they're trying to network.
I think that's extremely important. Yes.
Yeah. And there's also a good free lunch that comes along with it too.
You got that right. And, I think a lot of people are surprised at how willing the judges are to connect with people. I think a lot of us just think of, that the judge is in the robe, completely unattainable, sitting way up higher. But those folks run for election.
Yes.
They want your vote. They want you to know who they are in the courtroom. They want to offer, encouragement and support to people who are building their careers. I think it's surprising how approachable judges are. And you are going to run across one who may not be. You're going to run across some more experienced lawyers who are not approachable or who are never going to respond to your email. But in my experience, the vast majority of folks in legal have been given so much that they want to give back. And networking and advice and encouragement and mentoring is something I just find a lot of lawyers they want to do. It kind of feeds them, right? You think about a family law practice and, you've got dueling spouses on your doorstep every day. It's nice to take a break from that confrontation and offer advice and encouragement and meet somebody younger in their career who is enthusiastic. That can help them dust off some of their cynicism, right?
Yeah, Olivia, I'm curious. You said you had a prior career or you have a social work background. I'm just I'm curious as you think about kind of strategic networking. I don't want to presume anything about how many years you were in social work, but it would seem to me that you would have some relationships from that background where there could be some strategic connections. So am I off base?
Yeah,
or is there something?
very, very much so. And just sort of already having my resource map with where to, send folks, or ask questions. It can be very similar, but due to the under-resourcing of so many social services and stuff, the capacity I see with attorneys is frequently higher than in the social and community work field. So there's really some interesting overlap that I'm looking forward to getting into with connecting people. One of my sort of plans is offering some reduced fee services for people within certain organizations who I know are lower income by nature of their work and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's great. And Jared, I was thinking you and I need to get together to have another lunch and specifically lay out our referral our connections and our people that we know. I mean, one area, I mean, in the legal profession, but also I'm always looking for bookkeepers and accountants that can work with small businesses. And I know one or two, but I know there's more than one or two in the Triangle area that can work with small businesses. But I want to know people who know people in terms of like, okay, this is somewhat vetted. I know this, I know the owner of this small accounting firm. I know they're trustworthy. I just don't want to go with random people. So I was just thinking you and I need to kind of share that list. I need to expand my list because I often get asked, those sorts of things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anytime you're available, I will make myself available for you, brother.
And that's like the beauty of this, right? Is when you are in front of a few people like this, the creative juices just start flowing of, oh, have you thought about this? Or have you met this person? Or do you know this person? So I'm going to ask you now, like Mark, will this group meet Sonia Ebron in courtroom 5? Okay. So, that's one of the, what I view as a legal technology that's designed to assist people who are not in a position to hire a lawyer right now, or their matter is in such a way that this is really the best use of their efforts, is to pursue a program or a product like Courtroom 5. And so I'm glad you're going to learn about that because that could be a resource.
Yeah, she'll be just Olivia and Jared. Sonia is awesome. Did she go undergrad at Central or State? Maybe she went State. I don't know, but she grew up in the shadow of NC Central. And she's going to be speaking to us January 4th for a lunch and learn, but she's going to talk about her Courtroom 5 that Camille referenced, but we'll hear more about her. She's awesome. She's incredible.
Yeah. Her background is as an engineer. So I'm guessing, Mark, it might have been NC State. But yeah, she's fantastic. But in Durham, very connected in that Durham community and with the law school over there. She's serving on their, I think they have a tech advisory, and I think she serves on their board. So yeah, very well connected and just really interested in engaging with people, and sharing of information. Yeah. So do you have any like specific questions about how to go about building your list, or like I can talk for a few minutes about what I think are some sort of procedural, things to do, and then you can let me know if you have questions. But I encourage sort of this ABC list. So your first list would be those people that you already know, that are already in your circle, but you realize that you could really reach out to them. And family members are a perfect example. Like your family members, close friends, they obviously know you've been to law school, and now they know that you're setting up your own practice. But do they know with specificity, the kinds of clients that you need. And, Jared, one of the points you made about Lee was, oh, I didn't know, that like that was his niche. As lawyers, I think often the assumption is, well, I practice family law, so I can serve the whole world. Like anybody who needs a divorce, like I can help with. But I think the most successful practices are those that recognize that you need to target clients because you are limited in time and resource, and you need to have process and procedure in your office that works for the kind of client you have. You also need to tailor your marketing to those clients that you want to serve, right? And so when Lee would advertise on the radio, he would advertise on the sports radio station. I think it was the Buzz. And he said, like, that's where my client is hanging out on the radio. Like, they're not listening to that WCPE classical music that you're listening to, Camille, when you go to work. Like, they got to get their sports fix before they go into the office. And we would laugh about how he really drilled down to know who his client was so he could show up where they were. But even telling your family and friends, like, yes, I do family law, but here's the kind of client that is the best fit for me. You can still call me about others because I probably have a resource for you, but like, this is who is my best fit. So that's your A list. Your B list are people that peripherally, but you think you could benefit from getting to know them better. And so that might be somebody you meet at one of these speaking engagements, right? After you hear from Sonia, you might think, wow, I would really love to have a deeper conversation with her, because she's always looking for lawyers who can assist her client after they've completed the do-it-yourself part, right? She helps pro se court clients. And so if they have exhausted their pro se efforts, then she needs lawyers to refer them to. And so, that might be a nice connection point. So she'll be a warm introduction. And then that third category is those, colder introductions where you're going to look for a connection. And I think that also translates to clients as well. Who are the people that you're going to put on your client target list? Maybe your law firm newsletter or social media, you're feeding to them. Your A people are going to be those people who know you and who are likely to hire you already. The Bs are the folks who know who you are. And once they understand what your practice is, they are also perhaps going to reach out to you. And your C targets are folks that you want to work for, but they don't know you yet, and they don't know what you do, and how are you going to get in front of them? And that's your conversation with the Brian Craigs of the world, who you're probably going to hear from on video later today. But how do I get in front of what I believe are a wide variety of people that would hire me to do my work? Is that through the way my website works? Is that through the way my digital marketing works? How I promote myself on LinkedIn? So thinking about how to go get clients. If we think about there's 6 billion people in the world, I should have all the work I need tomorrow, right? But it just doesn't work that way, because one, you're not accessible to all those people. You have a license in, North Carolina. Jared has a license in 2 states. So that immediately shrinks his world. But realistically, it's also shrunk to the geographic location he's in, the courts he wants to appear in front of, the courts that make sense for him to appear in front of. Like, it probably, for a solo small firm practice, doesn't make sense for you to be in your car driving to Elizabeth City today and Asheville tomorrow and, Chocowinity next week. Like you probably need to focus on the triangle, right? Like that's going to be more cost effective for you. That's where you're going to build your relationships in front of these courts. You're going to know the court rules. You're going to know the judges. You're going to know referral sources. You're going to know how to, maneuver in those spaces. So,
Camille, as I say, you listed those towns just like a North Carolina girl, so you must be, the state.
that's right.
Chakawinity.
That's right. Yeah, Chakawinity. Did that throw anybody?
I've heard of it. I couldn't place it on a map, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, thoughts?
Well, I have a couple of questions, but just I'll keep this to like 30 seconds, but I had a cool connection that led to work. But I sit on a Durham work development board. I sat next to a woman who's a small business owner. They do construction. We got into a conversation, and long story short, I ended up in her office like a couple weeks later and had a deeper conversation. And she said, well, I don't know that I can use you right now, but I'll keep you in mind. We stayed in touch with email. Long story short, she is connected with this national group that funds minority owned businesses. She gave my name to them as an attorney that could support Hispanic owned businesses. And they contacted me. Long story short, I'm on their short list. I've gotten 2 contracts already. I've got a meeting next week for a 3rd contract. So it doesn't happen, it takes several conversations and they lead, but it ends up, 3 months later, I've gotten contracts, but I had that first conversation and then follow up, and it ended up to work and getting paid. So it does work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's strategic networking in action right there. And then one quick statistic I'll throw out, in the marketing world, we typically say it takes between 10 and 12 touches to turn a target into a client, meaning you are not going to sit beside somebody at a meeting today and typically get the work, right? It is the work you put in prior to that, the reputation that you're building, the people you're meeting. You are, for this particular target, like you have them on your firm newsletter, or you connect with them on social, you connect on LinkedIn, you comment on their post, you invite them to an event that you think would be beneficial to them. Hey, I saw the Durham Chamber is hosting an event for minority owned businesses. This might be something that fits for you, right? And then as Mark is doing that within this community, then when he sits at that table with that person, it's like the stars have been aligning for him through the hard work he's done for it to then pay off.
If Jared and Olivia, if y'all have questions, I want to pause, but I did have well, just Camille, just in the last few minutes, if you could, because you're so well connected at statewide levels and sort of big picture regulatory, I wonder if you have any kind of comments on, I could ask you about regulatory and what do you call it, limited license professionals. I'm really curious about that because I see that as an access to justice issue. I'm curious about AI, but that's a whole another webinar. I'm curious, just what do you see major trends in the profession across the state, good, bad, and different? So just, I would love to hear you pontificate on any of those topics of your choosing.
Yeah. You have, Olivia and Jared have entered the the practice at an interesting time. There is so much change. There is so much need. And we're seeing activity in North Carolina specifically. The regulatory reform conversation is going on across the country. And in North Carolina, we're one of the states that is having those conversations. However, it's, in North Carolina, it's through the North Carolina State Bar. And keep in mind, those meetings are open to the public as a member of the state bar, or just as a member of the public. You can participate in those meetings. You can show up for things at the state bar. Mark and I were there a couple of weeks ago for a summit on legal deserts in North Carolina. This concept of communities that don't have lawyers or access to lawyers at all, or very under number for the community that resides there. In North Carolina, the conversations around regulatory reform were open, and let's see what the options are. I served on a regulatory reform committee with the state bar, and we brought in experts from across the country to talk about things like limited licensed professionals. So that would be someone who perhaps looks like a paralegal, who has specific experience, typically in a niche area that is high need for the public, like landlord tenant, family law, something along those lines, where there are very specific rules about what you can do. And so someone would get this limited license by taking an exam, by having a certain number of years of experience in the field, by having recommendations from, people in the legal community, licensed lawyers, and then they could go and serve the public directly. So I could then hang my own shingle as a paralegal and offer a limited service. Or I could work for a lawyer who had me do work directly for a client in a limited capacity. So that was something that was being talked about here, as well as some other things. The current leadership in the bar has decided that's not the direction they want to move in. They are looking at a much more conservative view, which is lawyers only providing service. And so how can we get more lawyers in front of clients? The problem with that is all the studies, including the one that the North Carolina, one of the commissions, state government commissions, commissioned a study on legal needs, and there are not enough lawyers to solve the problem, and there are not enough pro bono hours for lawyers who already practice to give to solve the problem. So they're talking about things that we're going to make it attractive for lawyers to go to Warrenton, North Carolina, one of the poorest cities and communities in North Carolina. We're going to make it attractive for young lawyers to go there by introducing them to all the members of the legal community and having, them come and do a summer internship. And that's a lovely idea, but that does not solve the problem of $165,000 in student loan debt and an average income of $20,000 for folks in that community, right? So this is an issue I'm worried about and concerned about. I don't particularly love the track that North Carolina is taking, but I show up for those conversations because they're very important. So I think that regulatory reform, the people who oppose it, their concern is, as stated, is it's not fair to clients to have lesser forms of legal service. So a family lawyer would say, Camille, it's not fair to the client that my client gets a lawyer and your client only gets a limited licensed professional. And I say to that, it's better than no representation at all. So that's sort of the stated argument, because I'm among friends here with my friend Mark and my new friends Jared and Olivia. There is also some serious turf protecting that's going on, and that is really disheartening to me. But pay attention to these conversations. The ABA has a innovation survey. I think it's what they've called it, but it's a website where they show what's going on with innovation across the country, and you will get an email only when it's being updated. You will not get a million emails a week or even a month, but you'll get an email when Arizona opened their sandbox for regulatory reform. You would get an email letting you know that. You would get an email saying New York has just approved court navigators. Court navigators are not lawyers, but they are people who literally help you not only navigate the halls of the courtroom, of the courthouse, but navigate, like when you come in, you need to go to the clerk's office and you need to find your file. And then you need to find where your courtroom is. You're representing yourself today. You need to be in courtroom 4 and it's on the 5th floor. And, you know, so courtroom navigators, like, I think that's an excellent way. The courthouses are overrun, overpopulated with people who have no idea what they're doing. And any little thing we can do to help, such as a navigator, makes the flow of justice better for everyone, including the lawyers who are there representing clients, right? And the judges who are trying to now handle cases among people who aren't lawyers and don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So please pay attention to this topic. I think it's really important. And I think there are ways you may bump up against it in the kinds of practices that you're engaging in.
Camille, yeah. that was deep. I appreciate that. That was needed. That was needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And in the words of the church, amen, sister. Amen.
You got it. You got it. I'm with you, brother.
All right. Well, thanks, Camille. I think we've come up on the hour, but this was great. Yeah, you ended with a boom, with a mic drop. So yeah, and I don't want to repeat what Camille's already said because I wouldn't do it justice, but it's a passion of mine as well that, you know, to improve access to justice, it's going to take a whole lot more than more attorneys, but yeah, I think we need to be innovative. But yeah, I just would be repeating Camille. So thank you for that. And we need to do what we can to support her and the paralegals that are eager to do more, but there are powers that be that are restricting them. So
Mark, I have a strategic networking PowerPoint I'm going to send you so that you can share with your folks. And it also has my contact information at the end and a list of books that I find particularly helpful about networking. So I'll send that to you and you can share it with your group.
Great. Thanks, Camille.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. See you.
Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.
Thank you.
Great to meet you, Olivia and Jared. Good luck and stay in touch.